I'm Elex Michaelson. This week the issue is the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, the Democratic National Convention.
Reporting from China.
This week the issue is border security. This is the official plane of the Vice President.
Mr. President, let's talk about California.
Madam Vice President,
Elex,
welcome back to The Issue Is.
It's good to be back with you.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me on The Issue Is.
Welcome to The Issue Is.
Alex, thank you for having me.
Always great to see you. Welcome back to The Issue Is.
We've done this remotely,
Yes.
but never face to face.
Yes, you look great in person.
Well, so do you.
Well, if you get up early and watch Fox 58 on Mondays, you get to see, I think, probably the fastest growing political talk show that's actually happening right now in America. And the host of it is Elex Michaelson, joining us to talk about some of the biggest things happening in our state. Elex, once again, thanks for coming back on to Eyewitness News.
Thanks for the generous introduction. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, it's true. It's true. Hey, this week we had at our studio, we were interviewing one of the latest people running for governor, and that's Brandon Jones, Republican candidate. But then it was that day we had at our studio, Steve Hilton announced that he'll be running for governor. Let's talk a little bit about this governor race on the Republican side. What's your thoughts on these two guys?
Well, Steve Hilton's obviously a lot better known, and I think brings a lot more, institutional establishment support with him. Steve Hilton is well known for people if you watch Fox News Channel. For years, he had a show on the weekends called The Next Revolution with Steve Hilton. He did a big event in Huntington Beach this week. You're looking at some video of that right now. Drew a big crowd there. He had worked in the British government for David Cameron, never held elected office here in California, moved here in 2012, has spent the last couple years driving around the state, talking to people about solutions in terms of issues like housing and housing affordability, homelessness, wrote a book called Califailure. He's on The Issue Is this week. He brings with him a lot of support from some of those Fox News familiar faces. Vivek Ramaswamy, Charlie Kirk, Kevin Kiley, John Voight were all part of his launch event, helping to endorse him and give him a big push. The big question, though, is, you need to win over more than just Republicans to be the governor of California. 25% more Democrats than Republicans in this state. And so Steve Hilton is trying to say we don't want to be red or blue. We want to be golden together, a reference to the Golden State. But he's not backing down from his support from President Trump at the same time.
Well, he seems like he has more common sense policies. I'm curious. We had last week our political guy, Will Silverstein, interviewed Antonio Villaraigosa, the former mayor of LA, and his number one issue was he thinks crime is the biggest thing that voters want to talk about. I think Steve Hilton's a little bit crime, but he's also more about the homelessness. He's also about finances. What do you think is the biggest issue that might be gaining for voters?
Well, the big issue that almost all of them talk about is affordability. That's the word.
Okay.
The idea that California has just gotten to be too expensive to buy a house, too expensive to pay for gas, too expensive to do so many different things, which isn't, Bakersfield is actually one of the more affordable places in the state, so that may not work quite as well there. But I think that is an issue that people all over the state still, though, are grappling with.
Oh, let's move to the Democrat side of things. Kamala Harris, what's the latest with her? Is she looking to run for governor, or does she push for president again?
The tea leaves seem to suggest that she's strongly considering running for governor. Just look at her schedule. This past weekend, it was Easter, and instead of going to church near her house in Brentwood, she went to Inglewood across town. And this was the reaction, where she was mobbed at the Faithful Central Church there by a lot of supporters. And this kind of reaction reminds us that Kamala Harris has near 100% name ID and is not only a political celebrity, but an actual celebrity at a time when being a celebrity really matters. You don't see Antonio Villaraigosa or Steve Hilton Hilton or Javier Becerra or Katie Porter getting a reaction like this anywhere they go, not even at their family reunion. And so that's the kind of thing that she would bring into the race as a real strength. Now, we still have a lot of questions about her policies, why she'd want to be governor, and obviously this is not a representative sample of the entire state, but it is a reminder that she's at another level coming into this race than anybody else.
I really find that interesting. You know, you caught up with journalist Amy Parnes. Governor Newsom invited her on his podcast. I'm just curious, is the podcast route, these long form interviews, is this the way that politicians are going to start going to get their campaign message out?
It seems to be, or at least part of it. I think a lot of folks are confused on what to do next. And a big part of what Governor Newsom's podcast is about, if you listen to it, is he's confused on what to do next. A big part of why he's doing this is asking people, what should we do next? Amy Parnes and her co-author, Jonathan Allen, wrote this book called Fight, which was the #1 New York Times bestseller, which goes into all the behind-the-scenes drama of the 2024 race, including all the stuff that happened with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And Newsom clearly read it and was interested in trying to learn lessons from it. He gave an interview to Amy Parnes where he talked about his frustration that the Democratic Party essentially is leaderless right now. He believes the party should be doing an audit in terms of what went wrong. He would like to be a part of that process, says he's not really included in that process and is frustrated by that. Part of what he's trying to do with this podcast is actually address some of the issues of what went wrong so they don't make the same mistakes again. But it's an interesting place where Newsom is, and I think he feels a little emboldened to sort of open up and say what he wants to say at this point in his time as governor.
Well, I want people to follow, speaking of podcasts and stuff, I want people to follow yours.
Thank you.
People have been following it. Where do they find you? Where do they go?
Yeah, so you can watch the show on the air, but you can also go to youtube.com/Elex Michaelson to watch the shows. In podcast form, search for The Issue Is. We can go to theissueisshow.com. It's also on Tubi, the free streaming site. So all those places you can check out the show, and we'd appreciate you checking it out.
Absolutely. Well, it airs right here on Fox on Mondays at 4 a.m., which we're working on that time. We're working on that time. That's what this interview is all about, man. I'm a big fan of it.
Put in the work.
All right.
Yeah.
Elex Michaelson, really appreciate your time coming on Eyewitness News Mornings.